it. So,
and it was right at the time when the internet was just becoming. It really sort of shaped so much of a new culture, kind of, about this thing of people becoming famous for basically doing nothing, but yet having these incredible careers, and then women's sort of reputation. I mean, Pam, Paris Hilton.
We've been in that invasive kind of privacy since, and it's only gotten more and more, so.
And it's really hard. I always say I feel so lucky that we got a little taste of the industry before it became what it is today, which is just different. More streaming services, more people. You're famous from TikTok. You're famous from YouTube. You're famous from Instagram. It's sort of, it's almost like it's diluting the actor's job.
I remember even going on auditions for shows like that, and it was like written a very specific way that you had to kind of work through and be aware.
Okay, so that was Jennifer Aniston and Sebastian Stan on Variety's Actors on Actors, which is pretty much, I'm guessing, a collective of series of two actors having a conversation. And what you just heard was pretty much them addressing, Sebastian Stan is on this show or movie, I believe, about Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee. And just to give you a little context, of course, Pamela Anderson, model, like a pop culture phenomenon, actress, movie star, whatever you want to call her, that had a sex tape with, I don't know if they was married or not with Tom D, but they was just pretty much talking about, I guess, his role in his project that he has. And Jennifer Aniston was just making a comment as far as like how that was almost like the start of how entertainment is now today. Because I first caught one of this on Twitter, and I felt like I just wanted to share my views on it because, social media is a whole different animal. And with it being 2022, and like she did say, retrospect, the industry is different. And me coming up in the 90s, being an 80s baby, I remember when there wasn't any internet. I remember when it wasn't any social media. I remember when it wasn't like a lot of reality shows. Pretty much it was more like whatever you see on television, whatever you see on the news, that's just what it is. And of course, if you're smart enough, you know that some things are just entertainment and other things are like truthful. The news is still a form of entertainment to me. They report what they want to report, and of course, ratings and whatnot, but just to reiterate on what she talked about was when she was saying that, how she came up, before we had, all these Netflix, Hulu's, reality shows, all these different avenues to showcase our talent, and I can understand her sentiment, and I know, of course, we all take advantage of what we have now, so we have to remember the good also with what social media does, because I know with social media and the internet now, it's almost like if you don't share it, it didn't happen. If it's not broadcast, everything's going to be in question. That's why we have a lot of these shows like Red Table Talk, actors on actors or whatnot. I mean, it's just certain like real life conversations happening on film just to kind of clear up any rumors, any speculations, any assumptions. But at the end of the day, and I say this all the time, you believe what you want to believe. God can come down and tell you exactly who you are, exactly what you've done wrong, what you've done right, and there will be people that will still argue it. And I empathize with what she says, but also, like again, there has been, some responses, of course, and just to me, and I haven't finished looking at the interview. I do want to finish looking at it. I want to get a little bit more familiar with this show that Variety presents. But I do want to say one thing, that without all these streaming platforms, without social media, we wouldn't have a lot of people that we idolize now, people that we admire now, people that we love now. And that's not a bad thing. Of course, there might be a lot more easier ways of getting into the entertainment industry. Like, because, we all heard stories as far as people having sex for roles, men and women. Okay, let's just clear up. Men and women having sex with execs for certain roles, whether it's a leading role or whether it's just a moment in different films and series and shows and sitcoms like that. Because Jennifer Aniston, I know her from Friends, and I'm aware that she had some other roles in movies and whatnot, but I know her from Friends. I wasn't I didn't watch Friends as much. Like, my sister was a big Friends fan. I believe she cried when the show came to an end. And of course, having ties with I think it was Ben Affleck. Was it Brad Pitt? Maybe I'm getting the Jennifers mixed up, but I know that she was linked with Brad Pitt for some time. And I really just wanted to address that, and also those of you who've been listening, supporting, thank you. Because, again, without these streaming services, y'all wouldn't be able to hear me. Without these streaming services, I may not have ever been able to share my thoughts, share my story. And that's the thing. The internet, social media has allowed people who might have felt unheard, who might have felt, like they didn't get their shot. It allowed them to have an outlet to reach millions, thousands of people. Not to put in, less work, but to be able to touch folks on different stages, because you got to think, back in the 90s, a lot of times, if I mean, there was people who did, Star Search, been on soap operas, had to do audition stuff. A lot of those things you had to hear about on ads, and maybe you knew someone who was there. So you got to think it used to be a dream for people to be movie stars and musicians. They would have to go to Hollywood or New York just to, get noticed and to get their break. So not to discredit anyone who put in that work, that long game. We can't knock the new generation of entertainers and different media personalities or any other profile or low profile celebrity or individual who made it through the internet, because again, it's still being utilized by these veterans and OGs. So of course I can appreciate those who put in the work, like the Denzels, like the Viola Davises, like the Jennifer Anistons, like the Brad Pitts, like the Jay-Z's, or the Mariah Careys, who made a name for themselves before social media, before the internet, and still thrive now. But we also have to give credit where credit is due. We have, we have the Just Hilariouses, we have the Drakes, we have the Cardi B's, we have the Nicki Minaj's. I mean, there's a lot of entertainers that came up in the social media era. And, it is what it is, what you want to do. My whole opinion on it is I think it has its pros and cons like anything else, even with, pre-social media, pre-internet, where you can appreciate the work you put in. However, like I said before, there has been people who are thriving still, who have put in as much work as today's time. But again, we only know what we know. Even with social media now, we still don't know everything. We still don't know, we don't know what goes behind closed doors, even when the door is open. Like we go behind the scenes, but what is behind the scenes? Behind the scenes. Because again, everything's a show now. Everything is for your entertainment, for your amusement, but it's all still production. You got to think about a lot of these old shows, old movies that we've seen behind the scenes, whether it was on DVD, whether it was on MTV or BT, we would see these behind the scene cuts, and this is pre-social media, so it's like there was still a production there. So it's still like, okay, yeah, you can come from a time where things wasn't so public and invasive, But I still feel like there's a fine line between what's for your entertainment and what's for sorry yeah for what's your entertainment and what's for your own energy. See, I'm an inspired actor, writer, songwriter, entertainer. Like again, I'm podcasting. I do a lot of certain things, and I know like how things are. Like when I'll give you all this story, and I think I shared this before, but this is probably like 2 years ago, and even last year, I filmed a small part in a movie, but 2 years ago when they was having a casting call in my area in Hampton, Virginia. It was me and my brother. We went. It was actually just a pretty much an agency. So I guess you can say like middleman. But we went to you know, this casting call. There was a bunch of different people there. Some people was there for acting, singing, modeling, and it was almost kind of like, oh, they're trying to. And I guess what I picked up on was that you have to kind of know like how to do everything in some sense, I guess. Because again, there was people who wasn't there to act. There was people who wasn't there to sing. There was people who wasn't there to model, but it was we did certain things. And then, like I said, the actors, they had to go to their get in their line once after we had this whole presentation about entertainment, because they it was like when you're in the entertainment business, it's always good to have a second page, because you got to think you have your business page and then you have your personal page. Because again, you got to think, man, like when you're in entertainment, you're going to get a lot of people on your social media. And it's not always good to have people have so much access to you, especially when you're in limelight. But I remember during my read, and they was even talking about like, yeah, you don't even have to, memorize it, you just read it there. And I know they did choose me. They choose me to, come back again to, make the deposit or whatnot, but I didn't have it. I'm like, man, nah. But one thing that I was informed was it doesn't really it shouldn't cost you anything to, you know, get a role or get in a position. I think sometimes it's just like any other business. Like if you're paying a streaming service like now, like doing podcasts, I pay the distributors in order for my podcast to get presented. But see, having what you need, having what you gotta have, you can do it yourself and it won't cost you anything. It's just like I give you another example in retrospect, in correlation to this whole point is, you know, I'm not a mechanic. I'm mechanically inclined to some degree, but I had to change my alternator, right? And it took me a couple hours to get it done, but I got it done. I went on YouTube briefly, again, another outlet where people get famous and become a household name. So there's like saying there's pros and cons about it, but I didn't really look at it as much as I did, but I got the job done and I was able to put it in, everything's working fine. However, the only thing is like there's certain things that go in when it comes to servicing your car. So it's not going to be included in the Carfax if I am to sell it or use it, because again, there's different businesses. So I think there's certain, of course, there's certain rules, certain, I guess, criteria and guidelines as far as to what has to be done. So it's the same thing in entertainment. You're if you're an actor, actress, or entertainer, and you're looking for work, you can of course you can of course do it yourself and stuff. But if you have, like that's if you have resources and stuff like that. If you have the resources, but of course your agent, your manager, whatnot, they are the ones who get that information for you, get those roles, trying those roles for you. They're like kind of like your spokesperson. They kind of make sure that they have everything in line for you, and then all you gotta do is show up and do your part. So again, there's that. I think with today's entertainment, of course, things are done differently now. And again, I don't want to sit here and act like that I know everything that there is to know about the entertainment industry. But I remember, I remember when, when the tape released. Shoot, some people think Ray J and Kim Kardashian was the first sex tape, and I mean maybe it's the most popular, but you gotta think there's a generation of people who don't even know who Tommy Lee and Pam Anderson is. So it's not nothing wrong with that. I always like to say it's only relevant into your time. You if you are anyone who's born in 2000 and later, I'm not going to expect you to know all the presidents, because I don't even know all the presidents. But the thing is there's just case by case. So I do agree, with what Jennifer Aniston said. I agree with the fact that, it's, sometimes it's lucky to have a taste of what, the world was like without social media. But also sometimes I think it is now a little bit better. It just all depends on what you give into. I didn't want to get into a whole thing about it, but I think it is actually important to realize, the advantages we have now with the TikToks and YouTubes and Twitters and stuff, because again, not everybody needs to speak. Not everybody needs to, be heard, but that's only by you. I think everyone has a voice, everyone has something to say. Whether it's deserving or not, that's not up to me to say, but I think that doors today now allows those people who were inspired by, Jennifer Aniston and Jennifer Lopez and Jennifer Garners and all that stuff, or anybody like Nicki Minaj's and Mariah Carey's and Beyonce's. I think those who come in behind them, it allows them to do what they love to do without going through those same struggles and walk on those same eggshells. Because now it's kind of hard to deny somebody's talent or potential when the whole world's watching. So, because like I said, again, there has been, and again, there's still people doing it. There's still people, selling themselves, selling them souls to get on. But now it's more magnified to where it's like, oh nah, you gotta really, really, really be in a position to even try somebody like that, to take advantage of somebody like that. Look at what happened to Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein. So I mean, again, what else can I say? I think we have to acknowledge the good with the bad just as much as the bad with the good. At least acknowledge it. We don't have to subscribe to the bad with the good. Like I always say, man, it's just all about choices. But I do want to thank ACAST for hosting my podcast, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all these platforms, Netflix. You know, all these platforms that allow people of color, people of unadvantaged, disadvantages, an opportunity to also get their shine on in a world that is based on more, I guess, more financial stability. Thanks for listening. Stay safe, positive, prosperous, productive. This is Blair Cancer Camper.